name is Marina. I'm a speech language pathologist at More to Say, and I'm one of our company's literacy specialists. Today, we are going to talk about reading and literacy development. So to start the discussion about reading, I like to review what composes skilled reading. There's actually a lot of different pieces that go into reading more than just looking at the words that are on the page. So a big part of reading and reading in a skilled way involves comprehension. So knowing what we're reading, basically. I know that as an adult, even sometimes I'm able to look at the words on the page I'm reading, but I'm not really retaining what is being read, or I'm just looking and I'm not really grasping what's on the page. So a big part of comprehension includes background knowledge, so being able to take what we know about the world and incorporate it, connect it to what we are reading. Vocabulary, so being able to make definitions of words, use context clues to understand what each word on the page means, knowing how words relate to each other to get the big picture of what's being read. We have to be able to utilize language structure, so understanding the word order in sentences, knowing how to create or break down lengthier sentences using different clauses or subordinating conjunctions and things like that. We get a lot of information from the structure of a sentence, so being able to break down and have knowledge of those skills helps with understanding what's being read. Using verbal reasoning, so making inferences, understanding figurative language like metaphors, similes, making predictions on what's being read. And then we want to be able to use just general knowledge about literacy skills. So knowing that there's different genres of things that we're reading, knowing that the author has a purpose behind what's being read, knowing that we want to read from left to right and from top to bottom. So to pair with those comprehension skills, we also have to be able to actually break down the words that are on the page, and that involves word recognition skills. So in order to recognize and fluently read while we're looking at a sentence or a passage, we have to be able to have phonological awareness skills, which involves our knowledge of words. So being able to identify or break down words into syllables, knowing that words can be broken down even further into what we call phonemes, which are small units of words. And then being able to manipulate words and have that understanding that words can be broken down and changed around. We want to be able to have appropriate what we call decoding skills. Decoding is just a fancy word for reading. And in order to successfully decode words, we have to be able to have appropriate letter sound correspondences. So seeing a letter, looking at the written depiction of the letter, and then knowing that there's a sound tied to that letter. And then we also have to be able to have strong sight recognition of words. So as we get really strong with some of these word recognition skills, we stop really breaking down each word bit by bit, and we start to get more automatic with our reading, and we start to just recognize words based on their whole depiction. Right, as someone who's reading now, I can look at some of these words on the screen, and I don't have to break down each word into their single phoneme components. I can just read the whole word because I've built that fluency over time. So with this model, this helps to show that we really need all of these components to work together, right? We want to help build that comprehension, and then we also want to help build that word recognition at the same time, and those things weave together to help build skilled reading. So when children are having difficulty with reading, it could be in one of these areas, it could be across multiple areas, and that is something that we can help break down and figure out how to approach from there. Okay, so I am going to go into some of the details of those specific strands and then give some suggestions for what you can do at home. So the first big area that I want to go over is called phonological awareness. Like I mentioned above, phonological awareness involves the ability to notice and think about individual sounds within words. So this involves knowing that we can break words down into syllables, and then those words can be broken down into smaller sounds. We can establish those letter name sound correspondences, and then just build our knowledge of how words relate to one another. So being able to identify and come up with rhyming words. So knowing that cat, bat, rat all rhyme because we have to change the first sound, but we keep that ending section. This also involves being able to segment those sounds in words. So if we have the word dog, being able to segment out the fact that dog has 3 sounds and it has a D at the beginning, a G at the end. So some ways you can strengthen phonological awareness at home. I always recommend playing with magnet letters or letter puzzles, just building that awareness of what letters look like at a young age can help start to build that foundation of these phonological awareness skills. It could be capital or lowercase. I always recommend if you can introduce both, do it, especially lowercase is really helpful to get that exposure to because most of the words that we're reading are going to have lowercase letters, but both are great. I also recommend playing a lot of rhyming games. So finding something around the house and seeing if you and your little one can come up with a word that rhymes. So if you are sitting at the table and using a cup, trying to challenge them and say, okay, let's see who can come up with the most words that rhyme with cup. Reading Dr. Seuss books or any sort of nursery rhyme or even songs too are really great ways to point out rhymes because there's a lot of rhymes embedded in those types of stories. And then playing any sort of alphabet game is really helpful for building phonological awareness skills. So something like the I'm going on a picnic game and I can only bring something that starts with the letter F, right? This will help build that one, those phonological awareness skills revolved around the letter names and the sounds of letters. And then will also help to get the ball rolling on some of that letter placement in words. So really helpful skill to be able to break down the fact that something like fan, right, has an F in the word, but it also has an F in the first place of the word. Same thing, I've played games like I Spy, where we're looking for things around the house or at the park or wherever you are, and we're only looking for things that start with the letter S, right? So you can pick a letter and kind of tailor it to what your little one is interested in or what the situation is too. Phonological awareness skills usually develop between the ages of 3 to 5. It's never too early to start. You can always model some of these behaviors if you have someone a little bit younger than 3. As kids get a little bit older, we start to build on these skills, which is why we see it usually come around 3 to 5.